Welcome back to Gaza Power Hour. Thank you so much to Hazami Barmada for guiding that powerful conversation from Washington, D.C. We went to Gaza, we went to South Africa, we heard from Dr. Neladi Pandor, from Omar Shakir with the Human Rights Watch, from Ayad with the Gaza Relief Committee. Welcome back my guest in studio, Khalid Al-Qazaz with the Canadian Muslim Public Affairs Council, who's behind one of the main driving forces behind today's conversation. What did you take from that? I mean, so many powerful voices there, and particularly, to me, I'm struck by the solidarity that came from South Africa, from Dr. Pandor, and the importance of that allyship, of learning from the past. Can you talk a little bit about why you wanted to bring her into this conversation?
Yes, Jazakumullah khairan, Ginella. The previous segment was actually quite enlightening and useful in many different ways. And I'll start with the last voice, Brother Iyad from Gaza. It's just a continuous reminder that our work does not end by the ceasefire, that our work actually starts and there is more to be done. Previously, things were blocked, people did not have access. Now there is a bigger window of what can be done. Gazans and Palestinians in general have a lot to catch up with, a lot to rebuild, and really it is our work, our actually duty to engage with them in every possible way. And we've listed a few things through the campaigns that we're launching today, and we're asking everybody to subscribe in order to be connected to some of these initiatives. But what also Dr. Pandor and Omar Shakir mentioned is also the work is not done on whether it's continued political pressure or accountability. The work is actually starting, and there is a court decision with the International Court of Justice. There are decisions by different political stakeholders and people in the international community. And the new legal framework post this genocide is something that we need to continue to escalate in order to take those who are responsible for the genocide to account. So the work is starting, the commitment is there, and we need this to be the primary drive for everybody to escalate and to engage more. And we invite them to go to CanadianMuslimPact.ca to join this movement and join this work. And we're looking forward to the next segment.
Thanks so much, Khalid. And as you say, we all had a role to play, and we've been talking about, what is continued to be happening on the ground, the way the international community has and should respond. And we're going to continue that conversation talking about looking at taking courage in action, the people who took their solidarities from the streets to the seas. And we've been talking about loss of homes, of families, of lives. And we're going to continue talking about courage that challenged armies, that defied silence. And we're talking about the Freedom Flotilla and the global Sumud movement, showing the world that resistance isn't just about power, it's about people. It's about those who refuse to let borders or fear stop them from pushing forward to call for justice for Gaza and put those words into action. So we're going to hear from Huwaida Arraf, who is a Palestinian-American human rights attorney and activist. She's the co-founder of the International Solidarity Movement in Palestine and the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, which since 2010 has been organizing flotillas to break the siege of Gaza. She was on the first boats to break the siege in 2008 and continues today, most recently leading the Handala, which was attacked by Israeli forces in July 2025, and the Conscience, the latest and largest flotilla boat to sail dedicated to journalists and healthcare workers. That was attacked in October 2025. 92 civilians abducted, abused, jailed, and deported. Thank you so much, Huwaida, for being with us. I also want to welcome Dr. Zaheera Soomar, who recently returned from the global Sumud flotilla, and Hannah Clark-Smith, who's a communications coordinator for the global Sumud flotilla. So all three women whose leadership has reminded the world what conscious inaction looks like. Huwaida, I'll begin with you. help talk to us a little bit about how you mobilize such a diverse global network of people. And this is something that's been happening for years. I mentioned 2008, your first mission, and we've seen that people are willing to risk everything for Gaza. I'm not sure if I lost Huwaida's connection. I may go to. Oh, it seems like we've lost the link for all of our guests, so we've just got to come back to studio while we try to get them reconnected. We did have them up there, but we definitely want to take some time to get them back online to speak about their courage. Khalid, you're here with me still in studio. I watched some of what happened with these flotillas, and I'm really just inspired by the courage of these people.
And it's, as you said, Ginella, this is very important part of the conversation because what the Flotilla folks did is show the entire world that mobilization, resistance, resilience is coming in different ways and can be done and can be mobilized and can go in ways beyond imagination. So I think it actually took the Israeli forces and the Israeli government and the regime by surprise. It shifted attention to the atrocities in Palestine and Gaza, and everyone's message on the flotilla was basically, it is about the people of Gaza. It's not about the individuals. It's actually about the people of Gaza. Keep your eyes focused there. And I think this is what they did. They actually were able to change and raise the sentiments across all of Europe and many parts of the entire world. And this is what we are asking people to do. Don't lock yourself to old ways. Don't lock yourself to means that are, to algorithms and to powers that are attempting to silence you. Go break these barriers, go break these bonds, and actually attempt to bring the voices of the Palestinians back and advocate and mobilize as much as we can.
I think we may have gotten our guests back. I'm going to try and see if I can connect with our guests who are speaking today about the global flotillas. Huwaida Arraf, Palestinian American human rights attorney and activist. Can you tell me a little bit about the heavy lift of mobilizing such a diverse group of people in such dangerous elements? And maybe since you've been doing this since 2008, have you seen a shift in terms of the willingness and who wants to go and is ready to embark on this?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. Let me just jump right in. You know, when we started in 2008, yeah, it was a novel idea that we were going to take a boat and try to sail to Gaza when Israel controlled every aspect of who gets in and out, and our small group of activists didn't have a boat, didn't have money to get a boat, and didn't know the first thing really about operating a boat. But what we saw was severe restrictions. Israel had imposed a hermetic seal on Gaza, which was devastating the economy and which was killing people, which people could not get the medical attention they needed. You had rising rates of malnutrition, anemia, stunted growth in children and pregnant women. And this was all deliberate. And we had the reporting from humanitarian organizations, and the international community of states was not doing anything about it. Nobody was forcing Israel to change its policies. And we very much believed, again, we were activists and believed that when our governments fail, it is up to us to act. But what were we going to do? The idea came to try to sail a boat, to try to get in via the sea. It seemed like a crazy idea, but people set off to work on it, and after a while we managed to get two small fishing boats. We had 44 people. Those were the first group of people to try to sail to Gaza and break the siege. And we weren't carrying humanitarian aid. Our message was, and our message still is, focused on actually breaking the siege, because Israel has no right to control what gets in and out of Gaza. In the end, Palestinian struggle is one about freedom. Back then when we started, there wasn't much social media. And so our ability to communicate widely was restricted, or not as vast as it is today. But we set off in the way that we did. Those, to kind of make a very long story short, we managed to get into Gaza that first time in August 2008. And we managed to make it to Gaza 5 times on a very small boat. just insisting that we do not accept Israel's illegal blockade, and we are going to confront it. And we do not constitute any kind of security threat, because that's the excuse that Israel always uses on everything it does, all of the violations of Palestinian rights and humanity. And we wanted to expose to the world what lies Israel's basing all of its policies on, and urge the world to act to hold Israel accountable. And that's what we set sail with. We made it to Gaza, but at the end of December 2008, Israel started attacking our vessels. It nearly sank two of our boats. We tried a number of times to get in. In the summer of 2009, Israel commandeered our vessels, abducted all of the civilians on board, and at that point, we decided that we needed to escalate. We were a small group of activists, and at that point, we built what is now called the Freedom Flotilla Coalition by networking with groups in different countries and asking them to try to get a boat to join us. In 2010, we had the first massive flotilla, which was lethally attacked by Israel in May of 2010. 10 of our colleagues were killed. But the important thing is that didn't stop the movement. That didn't stop us. We faced over the years a lot of obstacles, including our government's complicity and governments actually working with Israel to try to stop our boats, which we continue to deal with. But more people have been awakened by just the brutality and the evil and the widespread information about what Israel is doing in Gaza. People are frustrated. People are looking for an outlet, and the kind of actions are growing. I think people have been inspired by this idea of taking to the sea, direct action confrontation. And after we sailed one small boat in June of this year, one small boat with 12 people on it, a lot of the eyes of the world were on that one small boat going to confront Israel's blockade. That boat was called the Madlin, and it was done in conjunction with a global march to Gaza and a Sumud convoy. We had a message to the world: we all have to break the siege in the way that we can, by air, sea, and land. And after that, all of those movements got together in order to plan the dozens of boats that you saw over the past couple of months at sea. And that's only going to grow. More people, I think, are awakened to not only the brutality of what's happening in Gaza, but our role, that each and every one of us has to play a role in bringing this to an end, and trying to join in the ways that they can.
Wow. I want to go to Zaheera, who just returned from one of the flotillas. Zaheera, I know you've been involved as an activist here in Canada for some time, and have taken to the streets, have been involved in lots of different actions, but this is a different endeavor completely. What's it like to go from protesting on the streets, local actions abroad, making a decision to do something like this that is dangerous? We heard Huwaida say 10 of her colleagues killed. Making that decision and knowing what you're getting yourself into, or trying to prepare for it mentally, and then actually being there and going through what you did. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having me, Ginella, on the show, and to the rest of the colleagues. I guess, we've been in the same space, Ginella, and we've seen each other on the streets. We've been in the same communities. This is not something, and I think the same goes for everybody on the Sumud Flotilla as well as the Freedom Flotilla coalition, is that none of us woke up and decided to join a flotilla and jump on a boat and go and risk our lives. This is not something that we just decided one day we're going to do. This is coming after years and years of taking to the streets, years and years of activism, years and years of lobbying. This is us trying to do things in whichever way possible, whenever we could in the past. And so in making this decision, it's kind of like we needed something different. We need to do something drastic. We need to do something that is insane, because what we're seeing is insane, right? So for me personally, when I make a decision like this, yes, it is a decision that every single person who jumped in a boat and decided to go and try and break this illegal siege, you are risking your life. But it is something that's so ingrained into my life as a choice that I want to live this way, in fighting for justice, not just for the freedom of and liberation of Palestinians, but for every injustice in this world. It's a choice that we make on a path of life. And therefore, I see it as a life choice. It's not just, a choice that exists now. And when I come back from the flotilla, so my life carries on. It isn't. This path continues, and we choose to live this life in whichever way it presents itself for the fight for freedom and justice, not for one nation, but for all nations, and ultimately for our own freedom. And so I think this does resonate with a lot of other people that we had conversations with on the boat, that this is the path that we've chosen in this life. If it comes at the cost of being hurt, being brutalized, or being killed, then so be it. And these are conversations that we've had with our loved ones, with my husband, with my kids, with my parents. And it's not something I've only signed up to. It's something that my family has signed up for as well. So it's a life choice.
Hannah, I want to bring you in because we've heard from Huwaida, these actions starting all the way back in 2008, but to now, it's getting a different level of attention. You were involved in kind of the communications piece around that. How important was that? Huwaida talked about it wasn't just about bringing humanitarian aid, but to actually raise awareness. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it, right? Getting eyes on what you're doing and maybe the different tactics that are used in 2025 than maybe would have been in 2008?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that over the years, as more maritime missions have attempted to break Israel's illegal siege on Gaza, we've become the world has come to see flotillas as a tool. So yes, they are a mission. Yes, the aim is to break the siege, but they're also a tool for awareness, like you said, and also a tool for political pressure. And so from the communications end, when you have people from 47 countries and 462 participants, all of those people have a story, all of those people have an identity and in a community and a country. It is supposed to be protecting them and advocating for them and representing them. And so what this mission can become, and what we've seen missions recently become, is a tool to raise awareness for both Israel's genocide on the Palestinian people, for its siege on Gaza, which has obviously lasted much longer than the 2 years that people have been aware of this genocide, but also the complicity of countries that were involved in this genocide and are involved in maintaining the occupation and maintaining the oppression of the Palestinian people, and also maintaining systems of oppression and imperialism and colonialism elsewhere. And so we really sought to, in this mission, to utilize these stories, to utilize the diversity of our participants, to highlight that this is where people are stepping up where governments have failed, that citizens are putting themselves at risk, that citizens are going on a boat for weeks to say, hey, this is the opportunity for people to step in. This is the responsibility of the free people of the world to say that enough is enough and it's time to step up, and to expose the inaction of governments. And we saw this in the response of governments everywhere, from the governments that refused to advocate for the protection of the flotilla, the governments that advocated only for the protection of the flotilla but not for the protection of Palestinian people, and the governments that even sent naval vessels to protect our mission, but then refused to have those naval vessels actually break the siege. This is over and over and over again. So we use this as a political tool to raise awareness for what is happening in Palestine, to raise awareness for what's happening in Gaza, but also to expose these global systems that are enabling this in the first place.
Huwaida, so many of us, myself included, watch those of you who have embarked on these flotillas and think about just how much courage you have, how much faith that you have, how much just guts to do this, and wish we could be there and do that, but we want to find another way to help instead of just watching from afar. What does meaningful a solidarity look like? How can we turn, our admiration, for what you're doing into action? What can folks watching do? That's questions for Huwaida.
Thank you for that. And I know, we're constantly being told, look, this is courageous or you're brave. And I know I don't, and I think many of my colleagues don't actually feel the same thing at all. But what we feel is that we are determined. And while this might be a risky thing to do because we don't know what Israel is going to do, it is very violent. It has killed 10 of our colleagues and on flotillas, and it has killed many more internationals coming in solidarity. with the international solidarity movement and otherwise, and it has killed obviously hundreds of thousands of Palestinians with no accountability. So Israel feels like it could do whatever it wants, and we don't take that for granted. But we don't, I don't feel like I'm brave or courageous. I feel like this is something that I absolutely have to do. And like Dr. Zaheera was saying, we have that conversations with our families. And as difficult as it is for my kids, I tell them that I'm doing this, yes, for the children of Gaza and Palestine, but also for their future. Because the world that we're living in now, where you can watch a live stream genocide and our governments want us to feel like we're helpless to do anything about it, like we can't stop it, that is not a world that I want to pass on to them. And so I am determined, and that determination gives me strength. But I know that I'm also just one little part of this global, very powerful movement that is led by Palestinians on the ground in Palestine and joined by all of us in the ways that we can. And so I'm constantly actually saying to people, you don't have to be, and actually we don't need you on boats, because some of the most powerful work that is done to make these flotillas successful and resonate is the work that is done on the ground. So if you people, for example, you may know us because we're organizers, or you've seen us being on the boats, but hundreds of others, if not more, you don't know them, but they are part of making sure those boats actually get to sea, and then thousands and tens of thousands, if not millions more, are making these actions powerful because they're sharing the information, they're calling up their media, they're calling up their representatives, they're demanding that action can be taken, they're organizing in their unions to shut things down if we are attacked, flooding the streets. All of that is part of what makes the flotillas powerful. So you absolutely are part of this. We're all part of this liberation movement, but specifically even the flotilla action, you can be part of it right from your home. And we need so many more people to join that to continue to make these powerful, because what we know is like, yes, Israel stopped and we weren't able to make it to Gaza, but breaking the siege is more than just about making it to Gaza. And we're determined to sail again and to continue organizing. And we need more and more people to be part of this. So yes, meaningful solidarity, to make sure you're aware and to ask yourself, like, from where I am, what can I do? And each one of us has a role to play. And that's what we need to hold on to each and every day.
Zaheera, have you had a chance to hear, do you get any reaction from folks in Gaza, in Palestine, when they hear about the flotillas? How does this impact them, knowing that these global kind of solidarity movements are happening in the face of danger, that they likely will be detained, that they likely will be intercepted, and likely won't be successful? Some would say, what's the point if we know we're going to be stopped? Have you been able to get any sort of reactions from folks in Gaza about what this means to them?
Absolutely. I mean, we actually received, while we were on the Sumud Flotilla, we actually received a lot of messages, a lot of videos from Palestinians in Gaza, talking about what this means for them, the hope that it brings. And I think a lot of them use the word hope, right? Hope because they see the world fighting for them, hope because they're not forgotten, hope because we are not stopping, to speak the truth, to rise up, to lobby our governments, to challenge the truth, to challenge things, and that they see us willing to risk our lives, willing to risk things for them, for their liberation, but also for our own freedom. And so there were a lot of messages received. I think while we were on the flotilla, there were so many videos that came out of the Palestinians in Gaza on the shores of the beach, making sandcastles and saying, "Welcome, Global Sumud Flotilla," with welcome signs, children standing there. It was so very heartwarming. And I think the minute that we got intercepted, it was hard. It was hard because, we didn't know. We didn't finish the mission that we started from a physical perspective. We physically didn't finish that part of the mission, although there were successful aspects of the mission in and of itself. But the physical aspect of breaking the illegal siege, it was heartbreaking in that moment, knowing that we are now intercepted. We're not going to be able to complete that. And I think the thing that was most gutting to all of us was thinking about those children and the Palestinians on the beach waiting for us. I think that was the hardest, because we it wasn't just about breaking the siege and about delivering physical humanitarian aid. It's about bringing hope to the people of Gaza. It's about reminding them that and showing them that we will never stop. We will not forget. And it's just hard when you can't complete that mission and you're being stopped by the Zionist forces. I was worried personally about the impact that it might have on them, the impact of their hope that we've tried to instill. But yes, we've seen so much love, so much welcome, so much support from them in this time. They showing us love. SubhanAllah, it's amazing.
Hannah, what do you see as next? Where do we go from here? We know that we'll continue to see folks trying to mobilize to break the siege, but as we are in this, quote unquote ceasefire, we know this isn't the end. We know that October 7th wasn't the beginning of what is happening when it comes to injustice in Gaza, and we know that this so-called ceasefire is not the end. And so what do you see as next, and what's the message you want people to take away?
One of the things that I think was a lesson of this summer of flotillas and these very bold attempts to break the siege is how much agency we have as a collective against these systems. And when people saw these boats being intercepted, when they were watching these live feeds, I think they saw themselves on these boats. And I think that also urged them to say, why aren't we doing more? Let's actually confront this. And look at all these little boats that this army, this rogue state is trying to intercept, in this contrast of just people power. And these boats that are getting 25 nautical miles from Gaza, and against this huge military force. And I think this is a reminder of people power. I think this is a reminder of of collective agency. And so I hope that the takeaway, and I think that this also is a big piece of why there was mobilizations all around the world. Right after the interception of the Sumud Flotilla, there was 1 million people who mobilized on the streets of Rome. There was 300,000 people who mobilized on the streets of Barcelona. Before this, during the entire genocide, I think the most was 70,000 who mobilized on the streets of Barcelona. People are somehow now, 2 years into an escalated genocide, realizing that they have power and capacity to change things. And so my hope and my message is that in the midst of this so-called ceasefire, that people realize that being motivated by the guilt of atrocities is not enough. That this liberation struggle, the Palestinian liberation struggle, is all of our struggle. And until Palestine is free, none of us are free. And so this pursuit it involves bold, big actions that are organized quickly, like these flotillas, and it does. And also, it is the long game. And I think that Dr. Zaheera mentioned this earlier. This is the life commitment. And so I think that we have to cultivate within ourselves, we have to cultivate within our communities, this liberation as a way of life. And this is also in a way, Palestine has revealed to us so much of the injustices in the world. It has revealed to us, and so many of the people who maybe were unaware, how their governments are willing to choose a relationship with Israel over their own citizens. It has revealed so much about how international law only applies to certain countries according to our international institutions. But also Palestine and Palestinian resistance and the history of Palestinian resistance has taught us what it means to say, even in the face of impossible odds, we have to continue resisting. That Sumud, the namesake of our coalition, is the thing that we ground ourselves in. And so this is the message. The message is that we can't stop until Palestine is free, until collective liberation is realized, that this is a mission that all of us have a role to play in. This is not a spectator project. Liberation is not a spectator project. This is part of everyday life for everyday people. This isn't just for activists. This is part of being human.
Thank you so much for that, Hannah. That's Hannah Claire Smith, the communications coordinator for the Global Sumud Flotilla, also joined by Huwaida Arraf, who has been trying to break the siege since 2008, and Dr. Zaheera Soomar, who recently returned from the Global Sumud Flotilla. Thank you so much to all three of you for speaking with us. So lovely to see a panel of women who are often leading the charge and doing this community work. And thank you so much. I know you say you don't feel brave, but we are all inspired by you. Thank you so much. And, you know, what we've seen today was such a fantastic conversation from faith leaders to legal experts to those who sailed toward Gaza. They're all trying to speak the same truth, that the world changes when people act with extraordinary courage. And this isn't the end. We know the community will keep mobilizing, will keep organizing, keep amplifying, because justice must be achieved. So we want folks who've been watching, who've been listening, we thank you for your patience and to stay with us for these last 2 hours as we've gone around the world and spoken with folks in lots of different places. I want to come back one more time in studio here to my colleague Khalid Al-Khazaz with the Canadian Muslim Public Affairs Council, who is one of the leading groups behind today's live stream and today's important conversation. Of course, we don't want to just speak. We also want to encourage action. So tell folks one last time what you'd like for them to do as they've been listening to this conversation.
Yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So this has been a very inspiring couple of hours for myself at least, and I think many people who are watching, hearing these different voices from different backgrounds, and people are inspired by faith, people are inspired by action, people inspired by the courage of men and women who've put their lives out there and actually their livelihood and changed a lot in their lives to stand for justice. I think these are very important messages that were carried, and we have to build on. I just want to answer the question you posed around women and the movement actually, and subhanallah, many of the faces of the movement for justice for Palestine, starting with Dr. Panduro, who's been with us today, to Francesca Albanese, the Special Rapporteur, and Greta Thunberg, and many of the women who participated in this panel today have led the charge and basically telling everybody that fighting for justice is not a responsibility of a specific profession, a specific gender. It is the responsibility of every human being. It is the responsibility of people who are active, people who are staying at home, and there is room for everybody to do something about it, because really the world is a much more dangerous place if we do not do so. If we do not stand up for justice, if we do not stand up against evil, I think we have ourselves and our children will face a more difficult future. So it is a collective responsibility. It is an individual responsibility. And this stream, this hour that we shared with all of you, is about actually showing that everybody can have a role to play. And we've organized this in a way where people can subscribe to our basically to subscribe to this movement, and basically fill a form where they can simply basically show how can they support Gaza directly, not through organizations that are working on the ground in Gaza in different capacities, education capacity, cultural, social, and even support their ability to be employed and support some of the education and relief activities as well. So these are all on the form that you can access through our website, CanadianMuslimPact.ca. And also, we are running a special campaign for one of the guests that was supposed to be with us today, but was detained by ICE for speaking for justice and speaking for Palestine in America. Brother Sami Hamdi was a British journalist and political commentator. And we're asking everybody to participate in the campaign to demand his immediate release. These are simple steps, simple things to show that we can make a difference. And then finally, this is only an invitation, and it is really about everybody's individual capacity that made a difference and basically managed to put pressure on the Israeli government to pull back. It's not yet over. We have to continue the pressure so that they don't continue to break the ceasefire as they do, to continue to protect our Palestinian brothers and sisters, to continue to take those who were responsible for the genocide to account. We are all witnesses of a genocide that was live streamed, and this is why we will not rest until people are taking, those who are complicit to the genocide are taken to account, and we will continue to help and support and fulfill our duty to support our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Gaza to rebuild their lives again. This is just the beginning, and we will continue to do so.
And we have seen the power of the people, the impact of this kind of community work. I think the conversations we've had in the last year are ones that we couldn't have had 3 years ago. And so I do see the needle changing, and despite the continued suffering of those in Gaza, I think we've opened the door to the conversations at the very least, because for so long much of this suffering was happening in silence. I want to thank my guests who joined us from across the globe, from Gaza to South Africa to the UK to USA, here in Canada, on behalf of CM PACS, Canadian Muslim Public Affairs Council, as well as the partner platforms, the Thinking Muslim podcast and Islam 21C, as well as you for tuning in, for your patience and staying with us through the technical difficulties of our ambitious live stream. We want to thank you all for being with us for this conversation and keeping this conversation going, for standing for truth, for justice, and for humanity. This has been Gaza Power Hour. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Take care.